Hello to Management 441 Business Ethics students. This is a very informal video lecture, I guess, to talk about three things, which hopefully will be helpful to us. Case, so the working on cases, your ethical presence journals, and the changing course expectations given the unusual circumstances that we find ourselves in. You know, we're really at a disadvantage with this kind of material because this is material that requires it. You know, it requires a strong 10 weeks of focused, persistent, and consistent effort. That's the best way to do this. And that's almost impossible to achieve given the current. This is a very strange and, really unpredictable situation that we're in. And I know that you students like to have clear expectations. And we're living in a time right now where the course is the least of our problems in terms of not knowing what to expect. So all of that makes it difficult. So I appreciate all of your patience, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, we have to kind of change methodologies, pedagogies, whatever. We have to change our approaches to learning the material on the fly to try to make it work. Okay, so let's talk just purely in the mundane area of what the expectations of the course are. And in the last couple of weeks of this course, you're going to hand in what is going to be the basis of your grade. All right, so you're going to hand in your completed ethical presence journal, and you're going to hand in a portfolio of your cases that you work on through the quarter, and then you're going to have the final case, which is an exam. So that's going to be what your grade is. So all the assignments that we're doing prior to the completed journal and the case portfolio, and then of course the final case, these are all preparation for those three assignments. And the idea is that you have to work on these skills and learn facility with these skills, and that's going to show up when you get to the end product at the end of the semester. So it's very important to work on this stuff every week. Now, we've encountered some difficulty in that it was my idea, and it still is that basically we lose so much by not being in the classroom, right? There's so many ways that we learn in the classroom that we don't have available to us. You're not going to be able to get up and speak. And that's really a way when you're up in front of people and you're hearing yourself say it, you start realizing what it is in terms of the content of what you're saying. You don't have the benefit of the interaction with your classmates. You're not working with them on teams, and you're not hearing their comments and discussion related to your work or you discussing their work. You know, and you're missing some of the general instruction and coaching from me, right? Where you can watch me coach somebody else and speak about their work, and then a light could go off for you. So there's a lot of these things that you're not getting. And what I was hoping to do was, I thought, well, by doing it as 33 or whatever number of students we have in the class, I think it's 33, by having you send in your work, and then I would write the comments, and you would get notes, and then you could develop your facility and your skills with the notes. But I'm finding that is that's too limited, because the problem is that when you make just notes such as that, they're easily misunderstood. It really requires a back and forth. It requires a conversation. So what we're going to try now I understand we don't have lectures in the course. So there's like 3 hours a week plus all your travel time and everything, which is freed up. So that's one thing that's freed up. So I think what you want to do with that time, which is really like a whole evening, however long it takes you to get to it took you to get to the classroom and then to get back home at the end of the evening, that amount of time has been freed up in your schedule, at least theoretically. I know, one of the things that's hard is like, I feel like I'm looking into a void. Like I really don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what kind of stresses or pressures that you're under individually or as a group. So all of those things are things that are a lot clearer if we're all in a classroom. So again, I appreciate your bearing with that. But you have all that time freed up. So what are the things that you want to do with that time? One of the things you want to do is you want to write. And then also part of it now that I'm thinking is that I think it's important that we talk to each other once a week individually. I mean, if it is an independent study, I think it's important that we talk to each other a half hour a week, which I'll tell you would not be sustainable or possible under normal circumstances. But I mean, for me, I mean, that's an amazing amount of time. Not that you should care about this from your point of view, but I'm just saying the practicality of it. It's an amazing amount of time for a teacher to be investing for one course, right? So we're talking about roughly like 16 hours a week of speaking to students one-on-one, to have one-on-one meetings. But I think it's the only way that we can do it, and I think it's possible right now because everything else, at least for me, has shut down. So I have the time to do it now. And so I think I think that's important so that we can move forward with your work, so you can make some progress. So this is basically the idea. So everybody knows where we're at, what the approach is. You're going to have your assignment every week. You're going to write it up. You're going to send it to me. We're going to talk on the phone, and then hopefully your skill you develop. You learn a little bit through that experience, and you move forward, and you go on to the next assignment. Okay. So and what we are pointing towards is those 3 assignments at the end, which also means something too. I mean, it's your responsibility to keep track of all your assignments, which I'm sure that you're doing anyway. I mean, they're Word documents, but you might want to get a folder or something to put them together, because you're going to have to put them together at the end. All right, so you're not being graded right now on these individual assignments as we go forward. You're just working on your skills, and you're going to be graded on the final ethical presence journal, the portfolio of cases that we do, and the final case, which is going to be the source of your grades. So I hope everybody's clear on that process, and if you're not, that's definitely something that we can talk about in our weekly phone calls going forward. So that's where we are in terms of the process. Let's talk about something else too. We've been working on the Hines case. Now, the Hines case is a very short and simple case, and it is just it was just part of the syllabus as a way of introducing the entire idea of the case skills. So that's really just a little introductory case. Now, I think it's good that many of you have done rewrites of the Hines case or whatever, and we're gonna try to get that up to speed. There's going to be these kind of revisions going all the time. So the Hines case is not going to be a case that you put in your final portfolio. Okay? So you're not going to have to worry about rewriting the Hines case. Hopefully the Hines case can be like a scratch pad where you've worked out a lot of the basics of the expectation in case. Okay. Now let's talk about case. Now here's another thing that we're going to eliminate because there's things that we just have to eliminate given the circumstances, and they're fine as long we're focusing on the heart of what you can learn, what the heart of the learning objectives of this course. So forget introductions to your case treatments. Okay, do not do introductions. Some of you have done introductions. Some of you have done introductions that would be fine as the introduction of an English paper, but are not a good introduction to case. Introduction is normally the last thing that you write related to a case. And it's also pretty much the most difficult thing. And the introduction is a parallel to an executive summary on a large business report, an opening statement at trial, or the introduction of a PhD dissertation. There's an art to it, and it normally takes a lot of time to go through, and we don't have that time. It takes time and attention that we've been denied by COVID-19. Okay, so do not put introductions in your cases. Now, from what I've seen so far, and frankly, there's some of you I haven't seen at all because some people sent in, which was the way, we don't have to rehash all that. I mean, last week, Quinlan was closed, so this week ended up being the first week of the online portion of the course. Several people sent me things last week, so I haven't seen everybody's work. So I'm just going on what I've seen thus far, and I would say that from what I've seen, people have a pretty good handle on the facts. On the facts. Now, understand in real life you don't get the facts like you get them in a textbook. In real life, you investigate the facts, and they come out of asking questions of what happened. But that tells you what you have to write up in even these academic case analyses. The facts are what happened. And I think people are getting the point which people didn't get initially. Maybe the most important thing is they have to be complete, they have to be specific, they have to be detailed. So, for example, in the Hines case, you don't say that the druggist asked for a lot of money for the drug. You say specifically how much he asked for. Okay, you want specific numbers. You want to look at. You're getting it in a textbook form, but what you want to look at is really the specific details of the situation. Okay, and most of you did a good job on that. There was one problem that I saw that some people did is a lot of times with facts too, and it was easy to get away with Hines because it's such a simple case. But you would have like bullet points, and you would list the facts with bullet points, and that could be okay for your own preliminary work, but brainstorming or whatever, or getting your thoughts together. But really, you have to write out complete sentences. And the idea behind that is that, especially when you get to more complex factual situations, you'll find that you'll get a lot of insight out of writing out the complete sentence. Writing is thinking, only better. So you have to write out the sentences because that shows that you thought through what happened. You thought through what the details were. If you rely on bullet points, it's like you're making an assumption that the reader or the listener is going to fill in the blanks for you. And that's not what you want to do. So write out complete sentences in the fact situation. Okay, so let's now move on to the issues bucket of facts. One thing going to issues is like, and it really applies to every step of the case process. What we're dealing with here is foundational logic. You don't say anything that you didn't lay a foundation for. So I saw real progress in the people that did the Heinz case 2 times. And what you did is you realized that if you're raising an issue in a case, you can't just raise it and say, well, the issue was it ethical for Heinz to break into the drugstore and steal the drug? That is an issue. But in your issue section, you have to establish that foundationally by pointing to the relevant facts and connecting the relative facts to the issue. And this is where sometimes people get a feeling, and I can see it in some of your writings, oh, this is repetitious or whatever, or I want to be concise or whatever. It's not repetitious to lay out the facts and then restate the facts as a way to justify your issue. That's not repetitious. That's the process. That's the process of what you're doing. So that is that. So that's why the way I put it in the ethical presence manuscript, and I think I put it on the syllabus too. I say, well, your facts earn you the right to make the issues, because if you don't know what's going on the ground, you can't raise questions about it. But the way that you write the issue is you connect the relevant facts to the issues that you're raising. Okay, so that's the issues place. Now, what do you do in the analysis section? I mean, in this case, really, I mean, some of you would have a couple issues. A lot of people in the Heinz case, you would look at it both from the perspective of whether Heinz should have broken in, and also from the perspective of the pricing that was done by the druggist, and you wanted to look at it in both ways, and that's fine. Normally you're going to have more than one issue. So that is, and the issues are important because, again, foundational logic. How can you analyze anything if you don't have an issue? I mean, how can you answer a question if there's no question? How can you solve a problem if there's no problem? So they have to be connected and related. Now, how do you do that? You take the issue, and this is where organization is really important. And this is one thing that in most of the writing I saw, this is something to concentrate on and work on. It's important to be organized in your writing. Okay, so you lay out the issue and then you analyze it. Now, how do you analyze it? You look at the relevant facts that are connected to the issue, which you've laid out in your issue section. And then you look at them through the prism of higher level thought. You analyze it through the higher level thought. Now, in the Heinz case, the Heinz dilemma, you're given Kohlberg. So Kohlberg has all these different stages of human development. So what you would do in this situation is you would look at the facts, you would analyze the facts through step one, through stage one, through stage two, through stage three, all the way through all the stages. You look at the facts, you analyze it through the prism of the stage, and you come to an analytical conclusion for each stage. Because when you look at the different stages of development, whether or not Heinz's behavior is ethical or not is dependent on which one of the stages of development you use to look at it through. There are all these different perspectives. This is the subjective part of ethics. So you get all these analytical conclusions for each stage. So if stage one says that you should be it's childlike obedience and fear of punishment. Well, under stage one, you look at the fact is that Heinz broke in to the drugstore and he stole the drug. And under stage one, it's not ethical because he's not being obedient. He's going to be punished. He's breaking the law, and that's that. And that's your analytical conclusion. And you're going to get different analytical. And you go to stage 6, and it's like, well, a higher level of consciousness or a greater sense of justice or whatever. That becomes tougher. Then your critical thinking has to go into it. You can start reflecting on whether this is whether he was honoring some sort of higher sense of justice than following the rules or whatever. But you have to go through that in a systematic and organized way. And by organized, I mean, like a lot of you, what you would do is like you would just write, like in a book report, you'd write like good little, pithy summaries of the different stages of Kohlberg. And then you might even restate the relevant facts from the issue about breaking into the drugstore. And then you would write a paragraph like, well, stage 1 and stage 2 or whatever, and you're trying to be concise or to not be repetitious or whatever these type things that have been drummed into your head, which are really not useful. What happens is it's not clear. It's not clear. You think foundationally. Think of a staircase. Now, all right. Think of the stories of a building. That one is the foundation for the one on top of it. Think in that way. Build structure foundational logic to go through your case. So you do all that. You have all these analytical conclusions. Now you can make recommendations based foundationally. You've set that up by doing the analysis. So now you have all these analytical conclusions. And what are you going to do with these analytical conclusions? You're going to look at each one of them. You're going to evaluate them. You're going to compare and contrast them. You're going to pick the one that makes sense to you. You're going to reflect upon that and give your reasons, your rationale, your own critical thinking. And that's what you're going to recommend or decide, depending on how you want to frame it. But that's going to be your recommendation and decision. And you have to do that systematically and in an organized fashion again. Okay, that's what you do in the recommendation phase. It's all structural. And then when you go to your conclusion, you summarize your whole process. You headline it. You summarize the facts. You summarize the issue. You summarize your analysis. And then after going through it, you summarize your recommendation. And the summary includes summarizing, headlining your reasoning. It's not just saying, well, we said this. And that then by this point, you've gone through this entire process. So then you can take the specific situation, the Heinz dilemma, and you can broaden it to something of more general significance, societal import, or the recitation of a value that can be applied in other situations. Okay, so that is really a description of the process, and all we're looking at here is process. And I think so far, I know I'm very focused on it, like trying to get some sort of concrete results. But it's also too important to understand is, why are we doing this? Why is it important? Why is it important to go through this process? Well, I ask you to look around at the moral degradation of the world, and how many really harmful and unethical decisions are made because it's not thought through in this way. It's not that there's any absolute right answer to any of this. As a matter of fact, I've seen different conclusions. Some of you have made good points saying that Heinz should have broken into the drugstore. Some of you have made good points saying that he shouldn't have. And that's all okay. The idea is that we want to elevate this beyond the radio call-in show where somebody just fires off an opinion, beyond the bull session in the dormitory where everybody is just saying what they think or feel. We want to apply reason and education, higher level thought, not just speaking in a vacuum, taking advantage of what people and processes have revealed, not just going ignorantly into the void, but also creativity and your own personal point of view. So it seems like it might seem like a very structured process and overly demanding formulaic type process compared to writing an essay of some kind. But actually, if you really get into it, it actually gives you more freedom and independence than not having the structure. Because when you have the structure, then your reason and your creativity and your powers of insight and observation can really come to the fore. Another thing that I'll say too in this process is that a lot of times what happens is you go through this process and you're very, very happy with the recommendation or decision, and you might revisit it a year or two from now and have a different recommendation or decision by going through exactly the same process. And there's a lot of reasons for that, because more facts can come to the fore. You might become more educated. You might have more higher level thought to draw upon. You simply have a creative insight that you didn't have the first time. And that's the nature of all of this. So this is a process. I'll say something else too. And again, I don't know if this is because of pressures that are upon you or whatever. It's my impression that you have to spend more time writing. I mean, sometimes I see choices, and it's completely understandable. I see choices being made because you want to get the thing done. But this is the type thing where you really have to, you have a structure, and you really have to pound away at it, and you have to lay your concrete for all the various foundations that you have to that you have to lay out in order to do the case. Okay, so I hope I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful to you. Um, those are general comments based on my experience of reading uh, the work that you've sent so far. All right, the ethical presence journals. The ethical presence journals, I'll tell you that many of you, most of you, not necessarily all, but most of you uh, have the hang of the ethical presence journals. The ethical presence journals are really good. You have everybody is good on the first phase, which is experience, which is basically telling your personal story, talking about something that happened to you or something that made an impression on you, some movie or political thing or whatever. You've written about all different sorts of things, something in the news, whatever. That's all good, and you all do that well. I think without exception. You have a who's there, what's going on, where are you, what's the activity, what's happening. You tell the story. The story is good. Now, the Ethical Presence Journal, though, is more than telling a story. And some of you, I think, are still trying to wrap your head around that. You have to do more than tell a story. So what are the steps? Experience. The next one is observe. Okay, so it's kind of like if you did a video of, say, you went to a party and you said, so the first thing is you went to a video of the party. So you're taking a video of the party and, you put the camera on the phone or whatever you're doing. You put it on various people at the party. You show the table where the foods are. You show the punch bowl, whatever, the apartment. You show yourself going through the door. Maybe you put the camera out the window, if, say the party's downtown, so you get a shot of Michigan Avenue or something. If, say the party's downtown, so you get a shot of Michigan Avenue or something. You do all that. So that's the experience part. The observe part is that you go back and you say, hey, did you notice that one guy was wearing a costume? Oh, that guy had a weird handlebar mustache. Oh, she had a beehive hairdo. Oh, people were nobody was eating the cannoli on the whatever. Then you have the experience, and then you're going into the observation, and you're saying, and why is that? Part of that is because what resonates with us is what's important to us. So you go somewhere, and the stuff that you see everything. You're conscious of everything. What are the things that you notice? What are the things that you wonder about? What are the things that they pique your interest? That is the fodder of your experience that gives you something to write about. You know the way. I mean, you go through life. There are certain things that you're more or less indifferent to, and there's certain things that elicit a response from you. I mean, that's just human nature. You want to get that down in your journal. So it's experience, reserve, reflect. Now, here's the part that some of you are great at, and some of you have to work on. And I think that the reflection aspect of it is this. I recently went to this breakfast meeting, and someone was saying, well, it's important to reflect, but they were apologizing for it. They were apologizing for the idea that you had to reflect, like that somehow it was a waste of time, or you weren't in action if you were sitting back and you were just thinking about things. I'm gonna argue this. I don't think there's any real action without reflection. I mean, we do have impulses and we do have instincts and we do act on them. But I mean, it's something for the journal. So that's real action, I guess. So let me modify what I said. That is real action. We can act out of impulse. But normally, the way it works is that you might have an impulse and a feeling, and you might even act upon it. But then you reflect upon it, and you start thinking, well, why is it that I did that? And why is it that the people reacted that way? And that's when you start to learn something from it. I mean, yeah, I mean, you don't just go. It is important to be intuitive. It's important to be spontaneous. Certainly, certainly, all of that's important. But then, how do you shape that into some sort of coherent creation? In this case, your ethical life. So it's like I might have mentioned this anecdote. I don't want to get into it too much. Like once when I was a kid, like a junior or senior in high school, I was in a car with a bunch of guys, and all of a sudden they started racing around and knocking mailboxes uh, off of their poles in front of people's houses. And I was like, God, I wasn't only, I was saying, no, let's not do that, and I protested or whatever. And then I was thrilled to get out of the car. And there were levels. It was like one, well, I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get in trouble for this stupid thing. Then it's like, I'm scared. They're racing around. Are they drunk or something? Am I going to get hurt? And then it's like, is this right? It's not right. Why are we creating all these problems for people? I mean, what this is, and then also this is stupid. And this is all reflection that comes out of that comes out of the spontaneous reaction of like, don't do this, of like protesting, and these type reflections, you wonder about it. So with reflection, it's like they always say, write what you know. No, you write what you don't know. You write in order to discover you and to understand how you really feel about things, which I think a lot of times when it's just like activity without reflection leads to all sort that's one that leads to all sorts of dumb or unethical behavior that is simply done out of ignorance or conformity or whatever. So you reflect, and then of course the final part of it is to apply. So if I go through the story about the mailboxes and everything, and I have that reflection, it's like, how do I apply that to now? I mean, I don't find myself in a situation where I'm in a car with a bunch of drunken guys that want to knock mailboxes off of poles. But how do I apply it to what I'm dealing with in life now? And how do you uh, how do you extend it? So this is what you're doing in your ethical presence journal. And I would remind you, when you look at the way the course is constructed and is delivered, much more fully in the classroom. But what we're trying to get at is you have the ethical presence journal, and that's like how to be ethical. The case portion is think and act ethically. The ethical presence is about you. It's about your essence. How can you be ethical? Your entire orientation. The case is about how do you reason and what do you do? How do you reason and how do you act? Okay, of course, application and ethical presence journal is also about how you act and reason and doing. I mean, you're reflecting they're just kind of there's a lot of similarity between the two. But the basic thing is case is more thinking and action. Journaling is more essence, being. It's your being. And then the other part of it, which was in the course that we can talk about here, but we can't play out, that whole thing with the pillars of professionalism, that was just like basic standard behavior that is professional behavior that connects it to the world of business or any profession, that connects it to your function in work. Okay. So this I hope this lecture is important. I mean, just to review what we over is we went over case, we went over ethical presence, journal writing, and also just the expectations of the course. So right now, and to say they might be changing expectations, we might have to change. I mean, we're in unknown territory here. So again, many thanks for your adapting, but you'll have your assignment. You send me the writing Tuesdays at 6 p.m. We will have our phone meetings, and we're going to the last couple weeks of the quarter, where then you're going to hand in your ethical presence journal, your case portfolio, and then finally your final case. You are responsible for keeping track of all your assignments, and basically everything that we're doing is working towards developing the skills to put together for those final 3 assignments. All right, so I'm recording this on it's the morning of Wednesday, March 25th. So I haven't had any of the phone meetings yet with students. So there might be more to say about that. And, I hate to say it because I like to have strong expectations too. I mean, I laid out that syllabus. It's like I really, really, I was very happy with that syllabus. And, but such are these times. So again, I appreciate all your understanding and patience and your continued hard work. And it's really a challenge that if we can be sensitive to each other's needs and stresses, and still get something worthwhile done here, to salvage as much as we can out of this experience, that'll be very satisfying, I think, for all of us. Okay, all right. Take care, and I'll be talking to you individually soon on those phone calls.